Thank you for being here. I can't see anyone except for myself, but thank you for being here. And this series, I feel, is very important. I wanted to do a free series on what is unique about macrobiotics to preserve these things, at least from our point of view and our experience, things that are so important, and really make them available to everyone. And hopefully, since the vegetarian and vegan movements are spreading so widely, that macrobiotics will take a different place, in society, in the coming, days, weeks, months, years, etc. Because, as you probably know, macrobiotics it's a way of life. It's a lifestyle. It's not a diet. So, people often say the macrobiotic diet, which is a total misnomer because there is no one macrobiotic diet. It depends on where you're from, where you live, what your health is, what your interests are, activities. So macrobiotics is an endlessly adaptable way of eating and living. And the uniqueness of macrobiotics is that the way of eating is within the lifestyle. It just doesn't stand on its own. And it's not based on what we don't do. I mean, it's based on what we do, or how we eat, how we add things into our diet, how we live, etc. So it's not just avoiding, animal and dairy foods and simple sugars. It's far more. So then the next point I wanted to make is that from a macrobiotic point of view, and I've talked about this recently, but I just think it's such an important point, and that is that from the macrobiotic viewpoint, health is a spiritual quality. What that means is that what we call spiritual health, or what George Ohsawa, the founder of modern macrobiotics, defined as spiritual health, is, well, he defined it in different ways. One was to have endless appreciation for all of life, the good and the bad. And, I've remarked many times, I've heard many people give testimonials who've recovered from life threatening illnesses or so called terminal illnesses. Everyone, without exception, has said exactly the same thing. And that is, my illness was the best thing that ever happened to me, which seems like, a strange statement. So, are they grateful? Are they appreciative because they're here and they're recovered? Or did they recover because of their appreciation and gratitude? To me, it's clear, knowing these people personally, it was their appreciation and gratitude that enabled them to overcome a great difficulty, in this case, life threatening health, and then go on to create lasting health. And the other way that George Ohsawa originally talked about this spiritual quality of health is that do not live your life as a lie. In other words, live your life fully, trying to realize all of your dreams more and more every day for what you really believe in. In other words, don't sell Coca-Cola and then try to practice macrobiotics. That would be a lie, right? Unless you believe Coca-Cola is the way to health. I had enough Coca-Cola growing up for several lifetimes, and I can guarantee you it is not the way to health in any sense of the word, but that's another point, another story. So the macrobiotic viewpoint is spiritual health, endless appreciation of all of our life, and living our life fully, day by day, for what we really believe in, leads to mental and emotional health. In other words, spiritual health leads to psychological health in every aspect. Then our mental, emotional, or psychological health then in turn leads to physical health. And this is totally unique because you could be, most finely trained athlete on the planet, and you could be, a rotten human being at the same time. You can just perform in an amazing way. That those two are not connected. And many professional athletes, even though they're finely trained, don't live long lives. They don't enjoy great health. right? They can perform, do amazing things, at a certain point in their life, which is different from lasting health that grows. So that's the macrobiotic viewpoint. George Ohsawa's basic idea for macrobiotics that he based macrobiotics on was he called Shindo Fuji. Literally, our body and environment are not two. So my reinterpretation is we are one and inseparable from nature and the environment. In other words, whatever we do, first of all, we're a product of nature and the environment. We come from nature and the environment. Everything we do affects and returns to nature and the environment, right? So to dissect or explore Shindo Fuji a little more, our connection to nature and environment. First of all, food connects us with nature. So nature itself, or the universe, or you can even say God, produces food. Nature or the environment condense to produce unique food exactly where we are. And when we eat that food, we connect with nature directly if it's plant food. Because if we eat animal food, we're eating animals that are eating the plants, right? They're eating grass or they're being corn fed artificially or whatever they're eating. The animals are eating plants and converting it into protein with a waste, and then we're eating it and we get secondhand protein. The protein myth is just amazing how widespread. We've been brought up to think that animal and dairy protein are superior to plant protein and provide things that plant protein can't. But the reality is animal protein is second quality, second generation plant protein, processed plant protein, and it has waste. Dairy food, on the other hand, is third quality plant protein. So animals are eating plants, cows are eating the plants, then converting that into their body. Then the next stage, then they're converting that into milk. And I find it very interesting that according to Colin Campbell's research, dairy food, cow's dairy, is the most carcinogenic, cancer-producing food on the planet, even more than red meat. So even though we're brought up to think that animal and dairy foods are the best nourishment, we've learned that this is not so at all. But also we don't connect directly. So hopefully you've had your mother's milk. When you have your mother's milk, you connect with your mother, right? That's the way it is. What else would you connect with more with your mother's milk than your mother? And it's human milk. So not only do you connect with your mother, the mother who bore you, you're connecting as a human being. You're connecting to humanity. Well, what happens when you eat dairy food from a cow or from a goat? What are you connecting with? You're connecting with that animal, and you're not really connecting as a human being. You're making another connection. And when you eat the meat, what are you connecting with? Together with that, who eats animals? In other words, the animals we eat are herbivorous. They're not carnivorous. The animals we eat plants, right? Carnivorous animals eat other animals. So if we're eating animals, what are we? Right? I don't know. You can answer that question, right? But point I'm trying to make, if we eat plant foods, grains, beans, and vegetables, etc., then we're making a direct connection with nature. Second point is macrobiotics then puts emphasis on indigenous foods that originated in the same climatic region. In other words, latitude is the single most important thing. It can be around the planet, the other side of the world, in the same latitude. So if you live at 39, 40 degrees where I live, you can go around the world in that latitude and you can make a a good connection, food from there. But most of all, when we have local food, then we not only connect to nature itself, but we connect to our locality. And the higher the water content of the food, the more important it is to connect locally. So, water is the most important thing. To drink your city water, filtered water, right? We recommend filtered over spring water, unless you live where you have good well water or natural spring water. Then, of course, that's a better choice. But it's not easy to get that anymore. It's not for most people. Fruits have a high water content. Vegetables have a high water content. So local food connects us to our locality. Then grains connect us to two things. Grains connect us to our ancestors and to our traditions. Grains actually have ancestral memory. Our memory is the key to our direction in life. If you want to get somewhere, I mean, might sound silly, but if you want to get somewhere, you have to remember where you're going. Now we have GPS. You don't even have to remember where you're going. You just have to remember long enough to put it into your GPS, and you get there so you can follow your GPS. But up until recently, we had to have a very clear idea. We had to remember where we were going in order to get there. It's simply that. Grains create our direction in life. And grains, we hear the reporting, a plant-based diet, eat your fruits, vegetables, and sometimes they'll say grains. Well, certain people who are involved in this way of life will give much greater emphasis to grains. Macrobiotics is grain-based, as all of the world's longest-standing civilizations where they're all grain-based. All traditional people are inseparable from their grain. Rice from Asia, corn from the Americas, bread from Europe, etc. We are synonymous. We're our grains. Our grains are our ancestral memory. They're our ancestral identity. They're they're who we are, and they set our direction in life. And they also allow us to continue this movement, what our ancestors brought forth. So the grains that we choose, whatever grains we choose to eat, really are one of the most important choices we make in life. But so when we eat grains, then we're connecting very importantly with these um, traditions, with ancestors. And the way you destroy a people is you take away their identity. So we've conquered people, we've taken their food, we've taken their agriculture, and we've basically destroyed their identity because we break the connection with the land and we break the connection with their ancestors, those who came before. If we want to recover that, we need to eat a grain-based diet. We don't have to have a high grain diet like macrobiotics did in the past. We've changed that, but we still plan our meals around grains. Next thing, fermented foods connect us with our essence. When you eat a pickle, naturally pickled or fermented food, you're breaking food down to its essence. When you eat fermented foods, it enables you to penetrate things to their essence, but also connect with their essence. In other words, connect with simplicity. So whether we're having fermented grains and beans as miso or natural soy sauce, fermented and pickled vegetables, sauerkraut, kimchi, and all kinds of vegetable pickles, pickled fruit as in umeboshi or olives, or fermentation as in grain fermentation, brown rice vinegar, or apple cider vinegar, or wine vinegar, again, the essence, or we're drinking alcohol, wine, or beer, or sake, or so-called spirits, grain and other distilled alcohol. So, and it's interesting they call that spirits because our essence is really spiritual. So fermentation connects us with our spirit. So the point I'm trying to make is food is connecting us to every aspect of life, but only if we eat a plant-based diet, a whole food plant-based diet, do we make a direct connection. If we have an animal or dairy food-based diet or both, we're not, what are we connecting with? We're making a different connection. This is part of the problem today. This is part of the confusion. This is why everybody's going in a different direction. This is why everything, who knows what to believe about food, about diet, about cooking, about oil, about everything. Everyone and everything is just saying different things because we started to eat not only animal foods, but processed animal and dairy foods. So it's even a step worse. And now we're introducing artificial plant foods like the Impossible Burger or Beyond Burger or things like that people say, well, I'm going to be vegan and I like meat, so I'm just going to eat artificial meat. But it is far, far worse. I don't eat meat, but I would eat meat, real meat from local grass-fed beef or whatever before I would eat an Impossible Burger. Really, literally, because that is so far removed from life. So I don't know what you connect with science. We're a laboratory. Okay. At any rate, so next, it's important to thank or acknowledge our origin because our origin is our connection to life. So when we give thanks, we're giving thanks to the food itself. We're giving thanks to nature that grew that food. We're giving thanks to everything from nature to the table. This is part of the process of giving thanks. And when we give thanks, then we're also giving thanks to our parents. And this is a little touchy subject, our parents and ancestors. And think about it. You might love and appreciate your parents. You might not know your parents. You might be very upset with your parents. It comes in many different ranges. But an important point, without our parents, we wouldn't be here. We couldn't experience life for better or worse. Those who came before our parents are our ancestors. Without our ancestors, our parents, in other words, we come from a long line. We didn't just arrive here. We didn't come from a test tube. We didn't come, from a petri dish. Even if we were mixed in a petri dish and, grown in a surrogate, still, or however, we came from our parents and our ancestors in one way or another. This is the beginning of our life, whether they're our ancestors or our common ancestors. This is the beginning. So when we give thanks, we have to give thanks. We don't have to do anything, but really we're giving thanks to whatever came before us, our direct connection to our parents and ancestors, and also nature. So when we say food, we're really thinking of all of life in every aspect of life. That's what food really is. Now, food has three types of nourishment. All food has three types of nourishment. So think of a bowl of food. So you have a bowl of rice, you have a piece of bread. All right. When you eat that food, you're getting the gross nutrients. You're getting minerals, you're getting proteins, you're getting carbohydrates, you're getting vitamins, you're getting enzymes, you're getting phytonutrients, you're getting all the nutrients we can identify. All food has an energetic essence as well. The energetic, excuse me for 1 second, sorry here. All food has an energetic essence. An energetic essence means where it was grown, the seed quality and the soil quality. Was it an organic heirloom seed? Was it a GMO seed? The seed and the soil quality, how it was grown. Was it a factory farm or was it a small local farmer grown with care? How did it get to the market? Was it trucked or flown? Or was it a small local grower delivering it themselves to their local farmers market and selling it so you know who's taking care of your food. So then you buy the food, then you have to take it home and you prepare it. And then how do you prepare it? When gas or electric, you prepare it, peacefully. It's at every step of the preparation. Even what do you serve it on? What's the quality? All those things are part of the energetic nature of the food. The next is the so-called spiritual aspect of the food, the spiritual essence. The spiritual essence means the health and the intention of the person or people preparing the food. So in a Zen monastery, it wasn't the new monk who was the cook. It was the most experienced, healthy, wise monk who cooked the food because they understood how important the spiritual essence. And on holidays, I remember growing up, and I mentioned I was a total junk food eater, but before that, then when my grandmother was still around, she cooked. And the one thing I remember there's a couple of things I remember. You walk in, you have the smells, and then she would come out to greet us, but you couldn't go into the kitchen. No one went into her kitchen. I was never in her kitchen, not even once. I tried to walk in and she just came and, ushered me out. That was her palace. That was her temple. And the meal was special. It's memorable way back from when I was a young kid. And then she got too old to cook and my mother took over. And it's same type of thing. I could walk into my mother's kitchen, but it was still. So you have the love and the intention and also the health of the people preparing the food. And then we remember these meals like none other because they have a special quality. But why do they have a special quality? One, maybe we're together with family and friends, with loved ones. That's part of it. But there's another part of it because the spiritual essence of the food comes through even more strongly. So then when we eat the food, we're breaking food down to solid, from solid to liquid, from liquid to energy. Most of our food we break down into energy, physical, physical energy, emotional energy, mental energy, spiritual energy. Most of the food breaks down into energy. Then, if we sit down and we eat slowly, then we start to unlock the physical and then spiritual essence of the food. One of George Ohsawa's diagnosis, and Nietzsche also was very good at, is what was the person thinking when they made this food? And he supposedly could tell you the exact thoughts someone was having when they were actually cooking the food, because that's in there. So if you cook your food with love, that's one thing. If you think, oh, I've got to make this food, I don't like it. I know it's good for my health. If I want to recover, I have to eat it. It's not the same as thinking, I love this food. I love preparing it. I love everything about it. And you treat it with love. And that comes through very much. So the final thing I wanted to bring out is giving thanks for food wakes up the goodness in the food, and that is literal and opens us up to the spiritual essence. I'm out there most of the times. I mean, who knows what's going on in that brain? And when I'm eating, I know a lot of people don't like to sit and eat without doing other things, but for me, it's the most wonderful thing because what comes out of the food is amazing. And once this woman, she was actually a dentist, and we only saw each other at summer conferences, the Kusha summer conferences every year, and we used to hang out and talk a bit. And she said, how do you figure these things out? I said, I eat brown rice every day. She said, I eat brown rice every day, but I don't figure them out. I said, well, we're not eating the same brown rice. Now, she thought I was being facetious, but I really wasn't. And it's not just brown rice, but what I'm saying is if you truly give thanks and acknowledge the steps I've been talking about the origins of food, origins of our life, and connections we make, and you truly give your thanks for the food, then you wake up the goodness in the food and you allow yourself to connect with the energetic and spiritual essence of the food. And if you look for that, then you get that more and more. And by that I mean, if you buy a car, you see everybody's got the same car. You didn't even notice it before. If you buy something, if you do something new, you find how many people are doing the same thing. Why? Because we are aware of it. We look for it, and it appears. I noticed when I started studying Oriental diagnosis that if you look for something, it appears. It wasn't there before. You look for it, and it's there in the face. It appears. So when we give thanks for the food, we wake up the goodness in the food literally. Everything has two aspects without exception. In macrobiotics, we say everything that has a front has a back. The bigger the front, the bigger the back. Everything has brightness and darkness both. Every day has brightness. Every day has darkness. Every life has brightness and darkness. Everything has a positive aspect and a negative aspect. Lao Tzu, the Chinese philosopher who created Taoism. Lao Tzu had a very simple teaching. And one of the things that Lao Tzu said that I love and try to live by, and it's not easy. He said, when people are good, I treat them as good. When people are not good, I also treat them as good. Therefore, or thereby, I gain in goodness. Now, it's not about them at all. It's about us. If I treat them with goodness or treat them as good, I'm gaining in goodness, right? So it's not only food, it's in life, but food is our essence. Food is our connection. So when we say thank you for all the aspects of our food, before and after, we need to do it both, before and after every meal, we wake up the goodness in our food and we connect with the energetic and the spiritual nature of food. And it transforms us in a way that is hard to imagine. So many times I'll go to eat somewhere and I see people that just dig in, not a pause. So I don't sit there and fold my hands or do it or in a restaurant or anything, but I sit there and I say thank you, to everything before and after. And when I'm at home, I have a little more formalized thank you. It's different when we're just here, Susan and I, or just family, or there's other people here. But more simply or elaborate, every meal needs to begin with, or is best to begin with, a thank you for beginning and end. And our real expression of thanks at home is the final stage of all food, and that's cleaning up with care, cleaning up with love. So in my home, my father didn't cook. I don't think my mother wanted him in the kitchen. I don't think she wanted him to cook, other than maybe toast and helping set the table, but he washed dishes. And even I noticed, and I said, I like washing dishes, it's something. So it's our appreciation, it's the final step. So macrobiotics is really about connecting with the spirit of health, connecting with spirit. Food is that entrance to the world of spirit. And it's our acknowledgement of that and our looking for it that starts to open us up to those aspects. And once we connect with the energetic and spiritual aspects of food, food takes on a whole different dimension, a whole different life, and tells a story that's always unbelievable. So I hope this was helpful, and if there's some questions, I can try to answer them. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Don't forget about our book, the ultimate guide. I know I say this every time for eating for longevity, but really, this is the book for our times. This is the book to cut through all the confusion. This is the book to bring us back to health. This is the book to bring us back to healthy eating, healthy living or lifestyle, and delicious, healthy cooking. And this is what we need because it can bring everyone together: vegans, vegetarians, health minded people, people who are into mindfulness, people into meditation, etc. It's really there for everyone. So I hope you take that to heart and spread the word. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Denny, for that very insightful discussion as always. Now we're going to break into our moment of question and answer. I would say maybe about 10 to 15 minutes or so, we can have some Q&A. So either I'm going to have the screen completely open. If you have a question in regards to the topic at hand, you can either physically raise your hand like this, use the raise hand feature. Also, just be mindful as we are streaming live on Facebook. In case you do not want your face to pop up on that screen, you can also just send something directly to the chat. I know some people just don't want to have themselves appearing on social media. You can send a question directly to the chat function and I can read it aloud to Denny. And for those who are also watching live on Facebook, I may be able to go back in for 1 or 2 times to see if there are any live questions. There's a few people who are actually watching live as well too. So at this time, we'll take a couple of questions, please, or a few questions. Michelle, I will have to unmute you. There should be a little button there that will allow you to unmute yourself.
Yeah. Okay, hi.
Hi.
Thank you, Jenny, for the great work that you do and your service to Ron. Yeah, so I'm going into counseling, and I know that macrobiotic diet, will address the spirit, and it's addressing my spirit. Although I'm not completely not yang yet, I know that I still have, even when I become more yin, we'll have yang in me. So I hope I'm not complicating things. Anyway, so going into counseling, what would you recommend so that I can live in truth and yet counsel? I know recommend the macrobiotic diet will ultimately help, but what's your opinion on counseling? Any of
Are you referring to psychological counseling?
Well,
Or emotional counseling? Or
it's actually social work counseling. So different
yeah.
modalities, yeah.
Yeah. Food helps all aspects of life because it increases our sensitivity and self-awareness. Like, for example, when you do the body rubs, you become more self-aware. When you walk without doing other things, you become more self-aware. When you cook, again, when you eat quietly, all these things increase our sensitivity and self-awareness. Together with that, the kinds of foods we're talking about, a grain, bean, and vegetable-based diet, activate our circulation, physical circulation, and energetic, emotional circulation. So they bring things into circulation. They make it easier to access our thoughts, our memories. They also make it easier. We talk about discharging a lot in macrobiotics. Oh, cold, I had a discharge, Well, we discharge emotions, memories, everything. We're releasing. So a healthy diet, okay, if what goes in is healthy, what goes out becomes more healthy. George Ohsawa's basic idea was world peace comes from healthy individuals creating healthy, happy, peaceful families and communities and society and eventually a world. It comes from our inner health and happiness and peace. So macrobiotics promotes that and helps us access those things. Yeah. And a lot of people then need help with that, need some guidance or direction. So.
And past traumas, complex post-traumatic syndrome. You're saying that with diet over time will help discharge that.
Oh, absolutely, because it activates our nervous system. Because, So trauma affects us on many different levels, including very deep, and the stronger the trauma, the more deeply inside, which means it gets harder to access. It gets harder to remember. So if you do these practices, it's helping to bring those things out, to access them.
Interesting. Thank you.
Yeah.
Needed to hear that.
Okay.
All right, Denny, I have a question here that asks, in reference to homemade amasake, at the end we add a pinch of SI salt and bring it to a boil to stop fermentation. Is it all right to consume it then, or is it necessary, or more balanced, to cook it additionally with kuzu or agar, as in desserts before consuming?
Okay. I have to say, I haven't made amasake since, the beginning of my macrobiotic days. I consumed quite a lot of it when good quality amasake was available, but amasake is fine as a beverage. If it's too thick, it should be diluted. It can also be cooked in other ways, or thickened with kuzu, or with Canton. But the more you do to it, even though Canton's yin, the more you do to it, process it, it becomes yang in another way. So amasake is nice, as a beverage, a cool beverage when it's warm out, and a warm beverage when it's cold out. But it's fine to use it in both ways. And it's not really that yin. It's fermented. It's fermented rice, but it's not an alcoholic. It's not like, you're making wine or sake with it.
All right, thank you. Does anyone else have any questions at this time? Once again, you can either physically raise your hand, use the raise hand feature, or send a question directly to the chat. Michelle, I'll try to get back to you. I'm going to see if maybe there's anyone else who may have something to ask here. Okay, looks like we have a question, and then I'll get to you, Janet. So our question, can someone recover from a serious illness without enhancing their spiritual practice?
That's a good question, because the macrobiotic viewpoint is that recovery from an illness is a spiritual transformation. We transform our personality and consciousness into it's like a rebirth, so to speak, into a new life. So they go together. I don't know how to separate our physical health, our emotional health, and our spiritual health. As I said, spiritual health, I don't know what happened. Somebody tried to call me. Spiritual health guides, as I said in the beginning, psychological health, mental and emotional health, which guides physical health. So they go together. I don't think they can be separated. And if somebody would take care of us and we do recover, we follow our own consciousness. Unless we transform ourselves, then there's no guarantee it'll be a lasting, health.
All right, thank you. Janet, you had a question, please? I'll unmute you.
Thank you so much. This was amazing. I really love the whole spiritual aspect of it. And I wonder, does it make a difference when you talk about saying the prayers or asking the food, or however you want to phrase it, the thanks that you mentioned? Does it matter if you say it out loud or in your mind?
No. You can say it in your mind, you can speak it quietly, you can do it together as a group holding hands. However, each way is good.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Right.
All right, Michelle, did you still have a question? Oh, I have to unmute you again there.
Unmute. Yes, Danny, I don't know if this is, I've been practicing for a while, and I really went up to the next notch to get rid of a problem I had, and you helped with that. So thank you for your help. I thought I would be
Mhm.
really ill right now if it wasn't for your help. My question is in Facebook Live as well. Here I am asking about excess gas from the body. I don't know if there's a quick fix why that would be occurring. I know there's probably, I know salts with beans, of course, but I'm not eating that much beans yet. I need to. But any opinion on that, if you do?
Yeah, I do. They say healthy people pass more gas. I hope so. I hope that's true. But um, at any rate, I think plant eating people have more gas. But in the beginning, it occurs because when you start to clean out your intestines, the fat and mucus break down and they also produce gas. That's one thing. For a longer time, macrobiotic people, if you get too young, too much salt, too much cooked food, baked foods, things like that, it starts to create a hardening or a rigidity in the intestines, which again produce gas. So it's different for people who are new to macrobiotics, who are coming from a, animal, dairy, and sugar diet. You know, to people who are practicing for a while, and then they create an imbalance which affects their digestion. So it depends.
Great, good information as usual. Maybe you could do a seminar on a weekend on that whole subject.
On gas. Okay.
Well, we do have a digestive health segment that will be coming up soon in a couple of months or so for a Saturday. I believe that's actually in, I believe that may be March or April. So maybe that will come up a little bit.
Right.
Maybe time for one, maybe two more questions. Does anyone else have a question at this time? I'm also checking the live feed on Facebook. I don't see anything posted there. If not, that's fine. We can end Zoom. So looking here in the crowd, don't see anything. Danny, did you have any closing remarks? And then I can come in for a close as well too.
Thank you all for being here, and Tehran, thank you for making this happen. And please spread the word. As Tehran mentioned, we are a 501c3. We really depend on everyone's generosity. We depend on your donations, and we depend on your goodwill, and we depend on your spreading the word. There's nothing like word of mouth. So if you appreciate this, please let people know. Thank you very much. Be well.
So have a great night, everyone, and we look forward to seeing you next week as well too. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody. Bye now. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.